Silver doesn't simply vanish, it is methodically stripped, melted, and replaced. In the 17th century, this chemical decay became the blueprint for a financial collapse beginning at the very top of the empire. In 1620, the Holy Roman Emperor, Ferdinand II, stood completely victorious. He had just crushed the rebellious Protestant nobles of Bohemia at the Battle of White Mountain, securing his power right outside the gates of Prague. This visualization maps the emperor's financial collapse. To win the battle, Ferdinand had drained his coffers. He was staring into an economic void, suffocating under a crushing war debt of 4.3 million guilders. Ferdinand owed this debt directly to tens of thousands of heavily armed mercenaries. Discharging them without pay invited immediate mutiny. The math offered no way out. The treasury would owe over 8 million guilders, impossible to extract from a war-ravaged population. To make matters worse, his usual lifelines had snapped. Pledged subsidies from Spain failed to arrive, and contributions from the Pope fell severely short. The state treasury was completely tapped out. Facing total collapse, Ferdinand abandoned standard statecraft entirely. To survive, he chose to legally authorize a covert network of financiers to aggressively manipulate the empire's money supply. In January 1622, the emperor signed a secret contract that effectively privatized the empire's currency. He handed total control of the mints over to the Prague Coinage Consortium. This group was orchestrated by 4 highly ambitious aristocrats: Albrecht von Wallenstein, Karl von Liechtenstein, Johann Ulrich von Eggenberg, and Duke Karl von Herock. They were practically identical on paper. Most were born in Lower Austria, had studied law in Italy, and strategically converted to Catholicism right around the turn of the century to align perfectly with the emperor's faith. They locked down their political trust through strategic marriages. Wallenstein's second wife was Herrick's daughter. Eggenberg's daughter married Herrick's son. They built an insulated family ring that granted them direct, unquestioned access to the emperor's privy council. This network map shows how the alliance functioned as an oligarchic monopoly. By isolating the emperor and controlling the court, they positioned themselves to exclusively manage and exploit the financial machinery of the state. They executed their theft through a mechanical process known as Kipper and Wipper. Kipper referred to the physical clipping of the silver edges off legitimate coins, while Wipper meant whipping the scales, using rigged weights to cheat the public on the value of the metals. They were weaponizing an economic concept known as Gresham's law, the principle that bad money inevitably drives good money out of circulation. The consortium systematically hoarded the public's high-quality silver failures. They swept the good currency out of the market, locking it away in private vaults so they could melt it down. In return, they flooded the economy with severely debased replacements. They stamped cheap copper coins with the exact same face value as the pure silver originals, forcing the public to accept a mathematically inferior currency. To protect themselves from the inevitable public outrage, the nobles exploited the deep-seated anti-Semitism of the era. They intentionally placed Jewish money changers at the front lines of the operation, ensuring the public blamed a marginalized group, while the aristocracy counted their profits in the shadows. No matter what the emperor's seal claimed the coins were worth, the physical corruption of the metal guaranteed a catastrophic loss of purchasing power for anyone holding them. The economic shock was brutal and immediate. As the debased copper flooded the markets, merchants realized the money was worthless. Almost overnight, the price of basic goods quintupled. The public desperation poured out into a furious propaganda war. Printing presses churned out pamphlets with titles like "The Purse's Wretched Howling" and "Mirror of Greed and Usury," documenting the sudden impoverishment of an entire society. The inflation triggered a devastating human toll. Farmers refused to sell their grain for worthless copper, creating instant widespread famine. By the time a severe winter arrived, citizens couldn't even afford wood to heat their homes, causing a massive spike in mortality among the peasantry. The social fabric shredded entirely. Neighbors turned on each other, and basic trust evaporated as desperate people resorted to theft and murder just to acquire food and warmth. This famine was the engineered outcome of the consortium's mathematics. By systematically removing the silver, these four men guaranteed that survival for the common person would become a physical impossibility. When the crisis finally broke in 1623, the class divide was absolute. The starving public was left holding bags of worthless copper, while the consortium sat on fortified vaults packed with the original, pure silver. This immense wealth transfer served a highly specific purpose. It allowed military entrepreneurs like Wallenstein to raise, equip, and control massive private armies, giving him terrifying leverage over the very emperor he supposedly served. The state-controlled mint provides a legal mechanism for the invisible seizure of citizen wealth. Through inflation, a sovereign power can strip the purchasing power from a population's savings without ever deploying a single tax collector. This comparison shows the historical root of a modern crisis. The clipped coins of 1622 sit quietly behind museum glass today, but the mathematical mechanism of government-sanctioned greed, the ability to print away the value of human labor, survives completely intact.